G'day everyone, it's SDS SuperCoach providing SuperCoach content for you. I'm here to present a video where I'm going to just be naming a couple blokes from each AFL team who I expect to get tagged throughout the season. Now, it all depends on matchups, but we do know throughout the season, especially in the second half of the season, we've been seeing more and more players get tagged tactically, and I expect that to be a lot more in full force come for 2023. So, I won't lie, I'm in a bit of a drop. I'm sorry for the lack of content over the past couple of weeks. It's a little bit of a dry spell at the minute for video ideas. So I just thought, you know what, I don't think anyone's done this yet. So I'm going to be naming a couple of players from each team who I expect if they're up against a side that usually tag, I think that those are the ones that will get tagged. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. By the way, I'm absolutely loving the support for the channel. I said 300 subs before round one. We're already on 290. So you know what? Let's keep pushing it out. Seems like we're going to get there a lot more quicker than I expected. So I'm not going to set a target after that, but make sure you do subscribe. Also like the video, but do subscribe. I'll keep punching out content throughout the pre-season, and the bigger the channel gets, the more flexibility I have for future content. So I can include more maybe Q&A, stuff like that. The bigger the community, the better content I can think of and create. So anyway, I've rambled on enough. Let's get straight into it. So as I usually do, I'll go the reverse order. So sorry to any Adelaide Crows fans, you'll be last from what I mentioned. So the Western Bulldogs, if they do receive a tag, sorry, I've written down West. I do expect it to be Bontempelli for the Western Bulldogs. I think Marcus Bontempelli, now without Josh Dunkley in the side, I do think they're going to put sides that do tag are going to put a little bit more work into him for sure. He's just that ultimate game changer. Doesn't matter if he's going through injury or if he's fully healthy. He's just absolutely immense for the Western Bulldogs. And he's going to be a big focal point once again for them this season, and see if they can get any better this season. I think the Bont, he's going to be hard to tag, but I think he's an option. Keep in mind as well, the players I'm going to say, I hope this doesn't affect whether you pick them or not. Sometimes you've just got to cop it because, you know, in every single player in SuperCoach, you can find little problems with each player. So I still think, you know, go with Bontempelli, but I do think, keep in mind that if they were going up against a St Kilda with Windhager, Hawthorn with McGuinness, who's the other one? Oh, there's a couple of others. Willem Drew with Port Adelaide, where I expected a little bit of attention to Bont. And the other, if Bontempelli isn't getting tagged, I expect it to be Bailey Smith to be tagged. So I just think with Bailey Smith can be used off the wing, creates a lot of play for the Dogs. For the West Coast Eagles, I don't think many sides are going to bother tagging this club, but I'm going to go with Tim Kelly. I do think he creates. He's just a very important player for West Coast throughout that midfield. He's probably one of the only locks in that CBA rotation at the minute for the West Coast Eagles, and I do expect him to. I don't expect West Coast to receive too much attention, but I do think it's Tim Kelly. If not, I've gone with Liam Ryan. A bit of slim pickings here. I'm just slandering West Coast. I am sorry for any West Coast fans here, but I think Liam Ryan, I think he's that point of difference in the forward line for the Eagles. Sydney, I've gone with Callum Mills. Just racks up so much of the pill, and he's just a great player to watch when he's three out in the midfield. They'll throw him down back sometimes, but I do expect it to be Callum Mills. If not, I've got Tom Papley as just a really energetic forward. If he gets going, he gets the whole Sydney team up and about. So that is Sydney. Just realised this might be a quick video. For St Kilda, I've actually gone with Sinclair for the Saints. If he is used, I mean, there are talks that he could be used throughout the midfield, but if he is playing that similar role from 2022 heading into 2023, I think we saw late last year him getting tagged a lot more because he was just making a lot of plays off that half back line. And obviously, he was the highest scoring defender of 2022. So I think Jack Sinclair is going to be one to get a little bit of attention. If not, I've got Jack Steele. Again, he's the main bloke in that St Kilda midfield. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see there. I do expect Windhager to... will they give Windhager a better role next year? I mean, he was tagging a lot last year. I think they need him to... I think St Kilda needs to let him loose a little bit and play his own game. He did at some points last year, but sometimes he was just stuck with a tagging role, tagging Lockie Neal or whatnot. For Richmond, I'm now tossing up whether it's this bloke or this bloke, but I've got Bolton. We saw he's just so important in that Richmond forward line. He's one of the most, one of the absolute guns of the competition. And I think if you can shut him down and you force blokes like Cumberland and Morris Rioli to stop it. Now, don't get me wrong, they're both still very important and good players. But if you can shut down Bolton, you'd rather do that and force these other blokes to have a day off or something. But the other bloke I do have that I will mention a little bit is Dan Rioli. I think he's very important off that Richmond half back line to create a lot of play. And we saw last year, I thought he was absolutely fantastic off that Richmond half back line. I thought he was fantastic, from what I've seen. And when I was at the Hawthorn game, now obviously Hawthorn aren't quite the top tier sides at the minute, but I remember in round 22, McGuinness tagged Bolton. He actually did a very good job. But the player that set up a lot of the play was Dan Rioli. He was the main man to go to get that handball receive and just run to the wing and just kick it into the forward 50. It's all well and good tagging Bolton, but I think if you tagged Rioli, there might have been a different, wouldn't have been as much of a smashing. I think Richmond beat us by like 70 points around 22. For Port Adelaide, I've got Connor Rosie. I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record with some of these, but another point of difference player in that midfield. You've got Wines, you've got Boak, players like that. But Rosie is more of a game changer. I just think he's a player that you look at tagging. And if not, you've got Ollie Wines. If Ollie Wines is killing you too much in the inside, then you make sure you shut him down. North Melbourne, I've got Jai Simpkin. We heard the other day that Jack Siebel is stepping down as captain. And I think Simpkin's going to be the next skipper for the North Melbourne Footy Club under Alistair Clarkson now. McGuinness tagged him in round the second game. It was in Hobart. I think it was round 18, 16. Yeah, 18, I'll say. And he did a really good job, held him to 11 touches. And I just think Simpkin, it sounds like a play. If you could get under his skin each and every week, I think you can really rule him out of the game. And if they don't tag him, I'm going with the young gun in Luke Davies-Uniacke. Now, I think Luke Davies-Uniacke is the better player, but I think you can get under Jai Simpkin's skin a little bit more and rule him out of the game a bit further. This is going to be pretty easy. I think out of Petrarca and Oliver, they're going to tag Petrarca more. I think there's more benefit if you tag Petrarca instead of Oliver. I mean, Oliver's still, in my opinion, a top 5 player of the competition, and I'd still say he's a better player than Petrarca. But when Petrarca's up and firing, there's no stopping him. And the absolute best you can do is just try to hold him off, hold him to like a 23 touch game, and he scores a goal. That's probably the absolute minimum you could do when he's up and about. So I'd say Petrarca's more of a tag target over Oliver. For Hawthorn, I've got Sicily. I've just gone their best player. So Sicily creates a lot of Hawthorn's play off that halfback, beautiful kick. If you can play a defensive forward role on him, so like Sydney, for example, with Ryan Clark, I think he can get in his head. He's another bloke that, if you can just ruffle a few feathers on him, he'll just lose his head a little bit. I mean, he's not what he used to be as a young bloke, but he certainly has those tendencies to just lose himself a bit. I think we saw that round 15 against the Dogs. That got in his head, and it was probably his worst game of the season. So I think Sicily, if you run a defensive forward with him, like a Ryan Clark, then I think he could get in his head. And my if it's not Sicily, I've got Jai Newcomb. So basically me saying Newcomb is force these other midfielders to stop you in the stoppages. But if Sicily's playing, I think he's the bloke to tag. For GWS, it's still one of the polarising players of the competition. I've got Toby Green. He didn't play much I know he actually did play a bit last year. I'll be honest, I didn't watch too many GWS games last year. But he's a bloke that can just win a game off his own boot. You know, I really love Toby Green. I love the way he goes about it. Not too many players in the competition with as much of a character as Toby Green. You know, people call him dirty and whatnot. I just love the way he goes about it. So, yeah, for me, it's Toby Green that you tag. If not, I've got Stephen Canelio and maybe force the young kid in Tom Green in the midfield to stop you. For the Gold Coast Suns, I've got Tu Camilla. I think he's a pretty easy option in the midfield. You know, he's just such a hard worker. He can work off those tags. He just works so hard and is an absolute gun of the competition. And I think if you can slow down Tu Camilla getting possession of the pill, then and you force these blokes like Noah Anderson, who if Tu Camilla's not playing, then I'd expect them to tag Noah Anderson. But if you can force these other blokes like Matty Rao, I expect Sam Flanders to be a bit more in the midfield last year, Noah Anderson, then it might give you a better chance of winning against the Suns. For the Cats, pretty similar to Sicily. I've got Tom Stewart. If you play a defensive forward role on Tom Stewart, I mean, there was some points last year that Geelong had to play him on the wing just to avoid it. So I think if Tom Stewart, if he's just lurking around as that third man, you know, if he isn't playing on a player, then I think Tom Stewart's a pretty easy option. If not Dangerfield, I guess, is similar to Petrarca in some extent. If he's firing, then he's hard to stop, but he is a bit older in age, and I do expect Tom Stewart to be the main man. For the Freo Dockers, I've got Andy Brayshaw. Again, he's just one of the young guns of the competition. I highly rate him. Probably the best two-way running midfielder in the competition. You can just tell he's a leader by example. And I think if you can slow him down, then you're doing pretty well. If not, I've got a breakout contender. I've got Hayden Young, who I think is doing a lot of the kickouts in pre-season for the Dockers. He's really under my consideration. If I ever change my mind on Angus Brayshaw, I think Hayden Young's the bloke I'm going to go for at D3. I like the idea of running 3 defender premiums down back. I'll just tell you, I've got 3 premiums down back. I've got 4 midfield premiums. I've got 2 premium rucks, and I've got 3 forward premiums. So I'm running a pretty even setup. You know, I'm basically saying in my head, all right, I'm halfway through the defense, midfield, forward, etc. Anyway, this is not what this video is about. Not about team structure. It's about players who are going to get tagged. And Hayden Young, was taking a lot of the kick-outs, beautiful left booming boot. And, I think if Brayshaw isn't playing for some reason, then I think Hayden Young's a main target. For Essendon, again, this is similar to Richmond, tossing and turning with who they're going to go with. But I've got Mason Redman at the minute. I think he could be the main extractor, if I've said that in the right terms. But Mason Redman off that half-back line could be the new extractor for the Bombers. Used to be Ridley, now it's Redman. I think he's a real dark horse as a pick, actually, but I'm not willing to go there. I just think Redman was just used a lot more off that half-back line. I haven't seen many teams tag him before, but I think we'll see that a little bit more next year. As I said, I expect there to be a lot more tagging next year. And if the opposition want to go for more of a tagging in midfield, I've got Zach Merritt. For the Collingwood Footy Club, I think for me it's Nick Dacos already. I think I'm not as high as the pick on most. I think obviously he's just a wonderful player at his age. It's just amazing how good he is already. But I think we're going to see more teams tag him and just to get him off his game a little bit. So I do expect Dacos to get tagged. If not, I've got Jordan De Goey as that point of difference midfielder that Collingwood do have. And for Carlton, I've got Paddy Cripps. Sorry. Oh, pins and needles in my leg. I just record this on my bed sometimes. For Carlton, I've got Paddy Cripps, the Brownlow medalist, just an absolute champion of the game, one of the best midfielders I've seen, and he's just been doing it so good for so long. No one's really talking about him as a pick, but I think he's going to be the bloke to tag, But again, he's another bloke. He's on his game. He's near impossible to stop. So I think we saw that round 23 against Collingwood, just how amazing he was to try and will his team to get in the finals. And if not, I've got Adam Sard, who is just so fast. He's just an absolute gun off that half-back line. You can think about Williams, Doherty. I think Adam Sard creates a lot more of their play for the Blues. For Brisbane, it is the main bloke, I would say, in the competition that gets tagged every single week. It's Lachie Neale. Poor Lachie Neale has to deal with a tag basically every week from what I've seen. And I think that's why now he can definitely, he's gotten to a point where he's just so used to the tag. He nearly won the Brownlow with nearly getting tagged every single week. And so it shows that if he's getting tagged, that shouldn't affect your thought process on whether you want to pick him. And he's just a tremendous player. Now he's going to get a bit more help with Josh Dunkley in the side. If Neale isn't getting tagged, I think they might switch it up and go with Josh Dunkley. But I do expect Neale to continue being tagged. But he isn't afraid to get tagged. Lastly, for me, I've got Jordan Dawson for the Adelaide Crows. He's been probably the main premium down back to be picked from what I've seen in the team picker. And I think Jordan Dawson's just a fantastic player, creates a lot of their play. They just try, whenever Adelaide try to set up and get it down the forward 50, they look for Dawson. I think he could be the next captain of the Crows. Did Sloan step down as captain? I'm not too sure. He has, but I'm not too sure. And if Dawson isn't getting tagged, we saw that last year as well. Dawson, he was getting tagged a little bit more. If not, I'm going to go Rory Laird and just force these other, like Adelaide's midfield, in my opinion, isn't that great. So if you can stop Rory Laird and force these blokes like Sam Berry's a good player and a couple of others, force them to beat you, then I think, Rory Laird isn't, I wouldn't say he's the most damaging player in the competition, but he just gets a lot of the pill and just accumulates a lot just to get the handball out and feed it to Berry or Dawson to kick the ball into the forward 50. So there we go, guys. That's my video. I'll try to upload more videos and I'll try to think of more video ideas. So maybe do a video or two next week, maybe with SuperCoach Pro, but we'll talk more about that. I think we're just kind of waiting for SuperCoach to open. Now, I do expect it to open probably, I don't know, hopefully in a week's time. I think last year it came out on the 25th. I've heard it could come out on the 24th this year. So only less than a week away, if that's the case, for SuperCoach to open. So thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Cheers.